Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broadening our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I'm here with Michael.
Hey, guys.
And Jason.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing
Good.
great. Doing good.
I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, me too. It's been a while since we've been able to podcast.
It has. It has.
Yeah, Jason's redone his basement.
Yes, which we are currently sitting in, so if we sound different, that's why.
Yeah, we'll have to adjust everything eventually.
Yeah.
Cool. I've been on a little vacation we'll talk about in a minute.
All right.
Some of you may have seen that in...
Yeah, I threw some stuff up on the socials
our feeds.
for everybody.
Yeah.
Some film-related content. But first, right out of the gate, I want to give another shout-out. We did one last time. I want to do one again.
Mm-hmm.
This time to a podcast called Unsung Horrors.
Yeah.
They're a very interesting show, and they were kind enough to interact with us a bit. They've reshared some of our episodes. I've taken some time to check them out. I think you guys have dabbled in there.
Yeah.
I've dug it.
I like it.
Their whole premise is looking for like rarely seen hidden gems of horror. They're very into Letterboxd, which is cool, and they're actually using it as like an algorithm to kind of guide their show.
Yeah.
With the Pro account, you can see the number of times people have logged views on a film. And so their criteria for everything that they select is anything that's under, it's 1,000 views?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And as a fan of obscure horror, I got to say, I don't know a lot of the movies they've covered.
Yes.
So it's really cool to go in there and say, oh, I didn't even know this existed. Cool.
Right.
So,
I also really love their approach to it as well. It's actually a pretty scholarly approach, which I really appreciate.
yeah.
Because I don't always want to hear somebody ripping on a movie that nobody's seen.
Right,
You know, I want to hear
right.
somebody legitimately dive into the film and talk about, like, okay, maybe why hasn't this film been seen?
Right.
And the hosts, Lance and Erica, they very much take that kind of route that we like to do, where you do get into the film. If you don't like it, you're still talking about like what was interesting, what did this do
You
that
get
was
something
cool.
good
Yeah.
from everything.
There's something cool to dig up.
My watch list has exploded since I started listening to it. It's a lot of great stuff. So if you want to be a cool horror nerd and get those deep cuts, definitely check them out. They're also collectors just like me. They talk a lot about Blu-rays. So, if you finish one of our shows and you're not quite tipsy enough yet, hop over there. They're going to get you across the finish line.
For how many blues they have.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll adopt your saying of, I've got the blue. Probably not.
I wish I could start that hashtag, I've got the blue.
Yeah, people just respond back with hashtag douchebag.
But yeah, Unsung Horrors, look them up, check them out. If you somehow found us and haven't found them yet, I guarantee you're going to love them too.
Yep.
Yeah,
You'll
absolutely.
dig it.
Let's
It's
go
good
give them a
stuff.
listen.
All right. So,
All right.
what we watched this week? What'd you watch, Jason?
Me, well, I
Other
find...
than paint dry.
Other than
literally.
paint drying, and it's been it's been a long couple of weeks. Anyway, I finally watched Tenet
Oh,
yeah.
by Christopher Nolan.
I still need to.
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet either.
Yes, and for some reason, I was kind of going in against this movie.
I am too.
I don't know why exactly.
I know why.
I don't know if it's Nolan backlash because
A lot of people did, right?
Yeah, and I think I said something in one of our previous pods about how his comments about cinema and how movies should be seen in a theater, and I'm like, well, he's out of touch. When does he go to a theater? And it's not a red carpet event or his own private theater.
I agree.
So I'm like, well, screw him, pompous filmmaker.
Get off my lawn!
Even though I've loved like almost everything he's done. So I'm like, well, I'll check this out. Oh man, I loved it. It's great.
Shit.
It's good. It is so good.
Shit.
The first 10 minutes, I mean, it just drags you right in. It is so well done. The score is amazing. The acting is great.
What is his name? Isaiah Washington?
Oh, no.
Denzel Washington's son,
Don't
right?
put me on the spot. He hasn't done a lot, has he?
Yeah, he did. The KKK movie.
Oh, right.
Doc. What was the name of that movie? God, I'm so
I am
unprepared.
blanking. I don't know why.
Also had Adam Driver in it.
It's not
Black Klansman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black Klansman. Yes.
I fucking
I
love
haven't
that
seen
movie.
that.
That was an excellent
It
film.
was so great.
Other hosts.
Yeah, John David Washington. Yes. He's
Sorry.
great.
Isaiah Washington's somebody else.
Yeah, that's something else. I didn't think that was right.
Also, our pet in there.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson, who was another actor who I used to loathe and have now come around to admitting that he's a fantastic actor.
God damn, he's good.
It's time to let go of Twilight.
Yeah,
It
that doesn't exist. It's like DiCaprio and Romeo and Juliet
Mm-hmm.
or Titanic. Forget about it. It doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, this guy is the real deal. He steals this movie.
I watched an interview with Pattinson where he said something like he was tired of doing anything that would maybe be normal. And he told his agent, he's like, I only want to do weird shit from now on.
Well, yeah.
And he's like, that's all I want to do is I want to do weird stuff. And his agent's like, that's going to be career suicide. He's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just what I want to do.
It's much more interesting.
And when you see his work now, you're like, fuck, this guy's good.
Yeah, he's very
really good.
He's great.
And I'm just going to throw it out. I think he's going to kill it as Batman.
I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I think he'll be good. The final result is yet to be seen. We shall see. But, I mean, Tenet, it has some of the problems that Nolan's movies sometimes have. There's some superfluous scenes. It's a bit too long. But, man, it's good. It's
I'll have
great.
to get to it.
Oh, and Kenneth Branagh, who I didn't even know was in it, he also steals every scene he's in.
Well, yeah, he's awesome.
He plays this horrible Russian arms dealer.
Nice.
And it's just, a really cold, menacing performance.
You know how I sent you guys that link to David Lynch yelling at the poor producer girl about how long a scene is?
Yeah.
I want Jason to tell David Lynch that his movies are too long.
I would not do that to David Lynch.
Because Jason's always like, it's a little too long.
Well, all movies are a little too long, and that might be something we explored today.
Maybe that might be something that you need to work through.
I think this sounds like your problem.
Yeah.
When it's a good, engaging movie all the way through,
Listen,
I don't have a problem with it.
My favorite movie is 4 hours long, so...
I'm so glad I wasn't in film club for that.
You say that like I'm not going to make it be an episode on the show.
One of my biggest fears is that Dustin's going to show up and be like, today we're going to watch Love Exposure. And I'm like, no, I have to go.
But you know what? I was never bored during Love Exposure. I wasn't looking at the time. I was engaged all the way through, even though it's like
So you're saying in Tenet at times it didn't engage you?
A couple of times, there were a couple of scenes I was like, this could be removed. This is superfluous. There's a lot of like, go meet this person, to go meet this person, to go meet that person.
You mean world building?
Oh, no. I mean, it's basically the James Bond movie that Nolan's always wanted to make.
It looked like it from the trailer.
You know,
Yeah.
and someone needs to give him a Bond movie stat. But, I mean,
be
if
killer.
they don't, he's made it. You know, he's made his, and that's what this is. So,
Awesome.
but I heartily recommend it. It's great.
I think I'm with you, though. I was kind of put off by it because when the arguments came out about cinema versus streaming, and Nolan said some things that were just straight up jackassy about it. And so I was like, come on, dude.
It's a little elitist in some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Everyone wants to see their movie up on the big screen.
Well, and-
I would love to go to the theater more often if it was a good presentation, but normally it's not.
And there's a whole lot of people who talk about the fact that it's Nolan's fault that it killed the cinema during the pandemic because Nolan pushed so hard to put Tenet up on the screens.
Yeah.
And nobody went.
Right,
Because
'cause
nobody was
everyone wants to get
comfortable.
sick and die.
Yeah, nobody was comfortable with that.
It's a great movie. It's not that fucking good.
Yeah, nobody went, and everybody's like, if you would have just let us hold off on the goddamn thing. But
And that's really why I've not seen it, because I do want to see this in a theater, and I just couldn't justify going at the time, the little window it was actually in there. And so I missed it, and now it's just always kind of on the back burner, like, oh yeah, I do need to watch that. Oh, I got to do all this stuff now. I got to see
think about that too.
Yeah.
I think about that too. Like, I'll be flipping through HBO Max, and I'm
Well,
like, oh, there's Tenet. I should watch that.
Get around to watching it sometime.
I want to.
Yeah. How about you, Michael? What'd you watch?
What you got? Or do you want to be the segue? Because
I'll
I know,
be the segue.
okay.
Segway? Okay.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of shit to talk about, and I'm going to try to rapid fire.
Wait a minute. We're supposed to pick like one movie.
Dustin is
greedy.
unconventional. He follows no rules.
He is greedy.
I make the rules, and then I break them. Do you see how that happens? It's just like when we play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I cast fireball into the entire room, but I'm immune to fire.
More like, I think everyone should have 1 feat for free at first level.
Yeah.
Which he got his way. He won his argument. All right, anyway.
Okay, so part of what I like about going on vacation, we went out to Washington State. Tiffany has this whole thing about wanting to try to see all the national parks.
It's cool.
Which is super cool, super fun. I get in a lot of movies on the way because invariably you watch something on the flight, you end up in a hotel stuck for a while, nothing to do. So I watched a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you just watch porn in the hotel like everybody else does?
That costs some money.
Oh, no, it doesn't. You don't know how to use the internet, man.
So on my flight, on the way there, I checked out The Invisible Man, the new one by Lee Winnell. Have you guys seen this?
I have not seen it.
No.
Fucking hated it. Sorry to say.
So you're not endorsing it.
I think people should see it because it is interesting, their choices. My problem is just that I am like a diehard classic Universal fan.
Fuck yeah.
And this film, like, it's got none of those elements of, like, what was The Invisible Man. It's a completely new take on it. Mm-hmm. And it's a cool idea. but it was very slow and very it just didn't land for me right.
Right.
I know for a lot of people it's probably going to be excellent, and I did see it get a lot of praise. I love Lee Winnell. I think he's a great creator. I've loved everything else that he's done.
No, I haven't seen the movie, but it strikes me as being like if they had made a remake of Dracula, but focused on a bad relationship between Jonathan and Mina or something like that.
Kinda, yeah. And they lose something in the fact that, like, what I think's neat about the Invisible Man, and there's been a woman in the role before too. There was the Invisible Woman.
Sure.
Usually it's a person, and it's some sort of science experiment. And
there was like the girl in the invisible bikini. That's.
Oh yeah, it's spun off
nothing.
Kind of
okay,
idea,
sorry.
similar.
I need to like a soundbite for dead stare.
But always there's this whole process of like their mental state, and it kind of like something is wrong with it, or they're deteriorating, or they start to lose their mind because they don't know if they're going to turn back normal again. And there's none of that in this, because like the guy who is the Invisible Man is the villain the whole time. He's just this terrible douchebag, and it's all like modernized to be technology. It's like this suit he puts on with cameras that like scans the surroundings and like mirrors it.
So he's Predator. He's Predator,
and it just never plays right to me. And then I
start plasma cannon.
I start to question it because they set up this whole scene where there is a good story in here about like like a battered woman and a bad relationship and getting out of that and having the strength to go on. That part is all great, and you could have just done that as a drama, and it would be awesome.
So Predator meets a Lifetime movie.
But then the Invisible Man part just doesn't work. Like, he gets her committed into an insane asylum because they, think she's crazy.
Right.
And then they set up that there's going to be a storm, and she manages to break out. And I think, like, oh, this is going to be a cool moment where, like, because of the rain, she'll be able to see him.
Yeah.
And it'll be this first confrontation. Nope. He's perfectly invisible still.
Oh.
Even though, like, in earlier moments, like, she splashes paint on him and you can see him. Or he like, walks through something and you can see his footprints.
Why wouldn't the rain? Even Claude Rains talks about he has to avoid the rain.
Yeah, and it just
creates like a bubble around him. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm nitpicking, but whatever.
Not.
I just don't see the point. I don't see the point of remaking them.
To make money?
Well, yeah. But artistically, I don't see
it's
the
like
point.
the remake of The Mummy, the last one. It's not even remotely anything like the old Karloff film,
I liked that one.
I hadn't seen it.
It's
so
very
I really
pulpy,
can't say
and
anything.
at least it feels like it's trying to be loyal to the concept.
It's got Tom Cruise in it. I'm not going to watch it. So
Sophia Boutella is awesome in it as the mummy.
Yeah.
She's a good actress.
Yeah.
Hanging out in a hotel randomly, killing time after one of the days we were hitting the national park. I caught on Turner Classic Movies Possessed from 1947. You guys ever seen this?
No. Refresh my memory.
It stars Joan Crawford. She plays a woman that gets found wandering the streets of Los Angeles, and she can't remember what's going on. Doctor brings her in, and she tells this story about what happened to her. And it's kind of horror-ish, but it's more of, like, I would say, a thriller.
Who directed that one?
Curtis Bernhardt.
Huh. I haven't seen that. No.
It was actually just real life. Joan Crawford was just lost in the streets.
Wow.
No, but it was really, really good and very noir, and I was impressed by it. And It was kind of just an accidental watch. There was nothing else on.
Huh.
That's cool. While we were on vacation, we managed to hit the theater to see The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Mm-hmm.
Always a lot of mixed opinions about that franchise. I think it's great. We need like big budget horror to keep it out there.
I love the first two.
I love the first two. I like some of the Annabelle films. This new one, hate to keep being negative, but I did not like it at all. It really struck me bad.
I tried watching it, and honestly, I made it half an hour, and I stopped it.
I liked it.
So what did you like about it? Because I've been dying to ask you.
Is this your movie? Have we segued into your movie?
No, it's not my movie.
Okay. Sorry.
I love the relationship between the Warrens. Like, that kind of is what sells me on the... Because I don't really care that much about the scares, because, I mean, they're fine. But for me, it's the relationship of the Warrens, and I think this one really explored the relationship of the Warrens a lot more. It was more about that, I think, than anything else. And I don't know. I mean, I see faults in it. It's not perfect by any means, and I would still say that I prefer the first two over it, but I didn't dislike this one at all. I also like the fact that one of the things that got me is where I struggle with the religion and state kind of thing. I love the aspect of saying that you make someone swear in on a Bible before they go into trial, saying that, so help me God. So you're acknowledging the presence of God, the existence of God, yet you won't allow a defense of saying the devil made me do it.
And that was a great scene when he delivers that line.
It's a great scene because when you punch holes in that, you're like, well, yeah, it's true. Because if you acknowledge the existence of God, you have to acknowledge the existence of Satan in the Bible and possession, which is also in the Bible. So you have to acknowledge that. You can't just be like, but that doesn't count. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that's most of what happens in Christianity. But that's fine. That doesn't count. No. You can't use that one.
I would have liked more of the courtroom drama part of it, I think. They really stray from that to go into this other thing with like the Satanist that's opposing them. Yeah. And that whole plot is like very weak to me a little bit.
Oh, but I fucking love the actor that's her dad.
He's a good actor, but just they set him up and then like, oh, his daughter's a Satanist, and they try to tie it in with the fucking Cult of the Ram from, was it the first Annabelle, I think?
That felt forced.
That no one wants to remember.
Yeah, that felt forced. The Cult of the Ram thing.
It kind of reminds me of Exorcism of Emily Rose, the whole courtroom drama thing.
See, I wanted more of that part.
Yeah, okay.
There wasn't a lot of that. There was gratuitous Blondie, though, and I dug that. Because, God, I fucking love Blondie.
Blondie's great.
There were moments I thought were really well executed. The actual murder scene, how they frame it all with the music, and how overwhelming he feels in that moment, that was really well done. There's stuff to love there. It just didn't land for me right. I would have liked to have seen what James Wan would have done. Not to shit on Chavez that directed it. Have you guys seen his other movie that he did? The
La Llorona?
Yeah, have you seen that?
I haven't seen it.
No.
Also pretty weak.
I tried to watch The Nun, and I hated what I saw of that, so I kind of abandoned the whole Conjuring verse, whatever it is.
Yeah, they're having problems, I think, with the spin-offs a little bit.
Yeah, they should probably just not do that.
Just honestly, just give me the Warrens. That's all I want to see, because I can never pronounce her name. Vera
Farmiga.
Yep.
I love her.
Amazing actress. Love great. Patrick Wilson.
Did you ever watch Bates Motel? Oh, man. No. She's so good in that. She's great.
But that's just what I want to see. Like, I want to see those two interacting, because that's what I love.
Flight Back. Caught some more films. Finally watched Knives Out at Jason's insistence.
Oh, my God.
Let's not go deep on it. I'm not a big Rian Johnson fan. You are. It's cool. We respect each other.
I'm not a Rian Johnson fan. I like most of his movies. I'm not a fan of Rian Johnson, but I do enjoy most of his movies.
Didn't care for it. Had a lot of problems. We'll save that for another day. We'll say
God,
I love Daniel Craig talking like Foghorn Leghorn through half the movie. He was great. He gave an amazing performance.
Everyone gives an amazing performance in that movie. You cannot deny the cast. It's a great fucking cast.
Some might say underutilized, perhaps.
I fucking love Don Johnson in that movie.
Oh, he's great. He's great.
I love Don Johnson.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, they're great.
Come on.
And then, it's weird because we flew with Delta, and I don't want to get deep into this, I guess, but the last time we ever...
a lawsuit from Delta.
Last time we ever flew with them, they had this awesome selection of films, and like all these crazy foreign films and stuff. Like, it is shown in like a film festival, but then like it wasn't anywhere streaming. I was like, whoa. That's all cool. This stuff, and then this time it was like picked over Redbox, kind of.
Before it was like, sir, you're going to have to leave the plane.
Yeah.
No, I'm watching these.
So the last one I checked out was Searching from 2018.
Oh, yeah.
The found footage movie
always
with
meant to watch that
John Cho in the lead.
No, you liked it, right?
I actually loved it quite a bit, yeah.
Nice. It's
not quite a horror film. It's much more of like a drama thriller, I would say. But they do the found footage angle really well, and it's very emotional and very well executed.
Cool.
So yeah, circle back to that. Check it out maybe if you've never seen it.
Yeah, I was meant to. I kept forgetting the name of it. It was my problem. I kept forgetting what it was called.
Searching, just the title of it kind of makes me think of
It's a weak title.
Waiting.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't like Ryan Reynolds in that one or something? It kind of makes me think of that.
And I thought it had...
Jason looks so confused. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I really don't.
I thought it had a really good construction of what goes on. Because it is like, a father searching for his missing daughter. And they explore all those avenues of like, well, did she have a drug problem maybe? Did she run away with someone? Was she abducted? Was she murdered? And they really go down all those avenues well. And then the truth of it is this weirder thing. And it's a good twist. I think it parallels real life well. Because often the truth is stranger than fiction.
If only there were a movie that was called that, too.
Okay, so that's my super shot through all the stuff I've been watching recently.
Okay.
Do also, real quick, want to give a shout out to Benny Loves You, which you and I watched.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
Really fun killer doll movie.
Yeah, British.
I wanted to see that one, yeah. I like the marketing.
Oh, my God. It is so much fun.
That's pretty good.
If you love killer dolls, killer puppets, any of that stuff, it is a must-see.
I want to watch that
Go
one.
check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine... started... I mean, I've watched quite a few things. I won't break the rules like Dustin did.
Oh, no, because we follow the rules.
Yeah, we're rule followers. After I watched Under the Silver Lake, which is the film for this week, I kind of got like into this whole like conspiracy theory, like Hollywood subculture kind of vibe. And then Dustin's also been bugging the shit out of me to watch one of these movies for a long time. So I finally watched my real first David Lynch film, and I watched Mulholland Drive.
Yes.
When you say real David Lynch, what David Lynch have you seen?
I'd only seen Dune before, and I don't count that because that's not really his. I mean, like, he's doing it, and it's got elements of him.
He was a hired gun for it.
Yeah,
right?
It's got elements of David Lynch in it, but it's not like the weird fucking David Lynch shit that all of his other stuff is.
It's not him off the chain just doing his thing.
Yeah. So,
although I do like that movie.
I like aspects of Mulholland Drive. I'm not sure that I like it as a whole, but I'm also not sure... I'm not sure that David Lynch is for me.
Ooh,
you know,
okay.
like...
He's not for everyone.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
That's not like an elitist thing. It's like, oh, you just don't get it. No,
it's
literally not for everyone.
It's just his style. I don't think is something I like. I see his style, and I appreciate it, and like... I think that he has really done a fantastic job in his career of establishing what is his vision and what he wants to put on camera, and he does that no matter what. It doesn't matter if like 100 people tell him you can't put that on camera; it's going to happen.
He's a true auteur. No
so I appreciate that, but I'm just not sure that that's where I want to spend my time watching films. You know, we've talked that you think that Jason thinks that Mulholland Drive was not the best choice for my first one to see.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Mulholland Drive is super out there. Like, it's very disjointed on purpose because the film revolves around an amnesiac. So, I think I'm supposed to be feeling as confused as the main character.
It's a mystery that you, the viewer, are also being placed in.
Yeah.
And he does that in several of his films.
And so I appreciate it. I'm not saying that I think it's bad. I think that I can certainly see why people really do like David Lynch. I'm just not sure that he's my cup of tea.
Yeah, I still think you should watch Blue Velvet at some point, though.
I do want to watch more because I think that probably almost every artist has got something that I would like.
And Eraserhead.
But this one was just kind of like, because this one fell in the same realm of Under the Silver Lake topic, I was like, okay, well, I'm still in the mood for that. So
I'm sure you could see the inspiration.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like it's very clear to me the inspiration came a lot from that. So I'm happy I watched it.
Yeah, I definitely think he is truly on his own wavelength, and I think for some people, like, they can kind of vibe to that and get along with it, but I don't know if any of us are really on that exact same line that he's on.
No, a lot of Lynch's stuff feels like art school projects to me, and that's just never been for me.
Right.
And it actually touches a lot in that in Under the Silver Lake, like these avant-garde art projects.
The pretentiousness of it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know if I belong here, kind of a thing. You know? Everybody else is enjoying the wine and the cheese selection and watching the art project happen, and I'm like, you guys got any PBR back there? So maybe that's just not for me. But I'm happy that I watched it. I've basically broken my Lynch cherry.
Killer.
Ooh.
We'll get you to some more.
Phrasing. That was,
no, it was meant that way. It was meant to be uncomfortable.
Okay. Probably made all the listeners uncomfortable.
Yeah, I usually do.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Nice. All right, so today we are talking about Under the Silver Lake from 2018, directed by David Robert Mitchell. Horror fans are going to recognize him. His first big feature was It Follows,
which I totally dig.
Very excellent film. I think we
Great
all
movie.
love it here.
Great movie. Even I have the blue of that one. So.
Ooh, that's like a triple shot or something. I don't know.
But again, it's one of those movies I really haven't revisited very much.
That's true.
It has that atmosphere that's just, it's so hard to recapture after the first time you've seen it. Anyway, sorry.
And if you're rolling from It Follows to this film, it's going to be a curious departure because it's definitely not a traditional horror film in any sense.
No.
It is much more of like a crime, drama, like neo-noir mystery sort of thing.
Yeah.
Very Lynchian right off the gate. That's the first thing you can say about it.
You can say that about it.
Jason just looks so mad.
And let me just give a synopsis real quick before we start digging into it. So, Sam is a disenchanted 33-year-old who discovers a mysterious woman, Sarah, frolicking in his apartment swimming pool. When she vanishes, Sam embarks on a surreal quest across Los Angeles to decode the secret behind her disappearance, leading him into the murkiest depths of mystery, scandal, and conspiracy in the City of Angels.
I must have made a face because Michael's laughing at me.
It was the lack of face you made. I could see it. You're like, great. Cool.
Top level, we talked about the director. The score is done by Disasterpiece.
Okay, I want to say this. The score is fucking amazing.
It is great.
This is something I would actually... I don't even like... It's such a throwback to the old Hollywood scores.
Yeah.
It's great. This is something I would buy on vinyl.
And Disasterpiece worked on It Follows.
Right.
So it's the same partnership there carrying on. We've already set up that this does get into heavy conspiracy and weirdness, and the film actually had a cryptography consultant.
That's super cool.
Who was Kevin Knight. He's a computer scientist, and in 2011 he co-created a program to translate the Copiale cipher, I think is how it's pronounced.
Oh yeah, I saw that online.
Guess is as good as mine.
Right, so he is a guy steeped in this stuff, and they actually consulted with him for the film in constructing everything.
So essentially we see, starting off, Sam is kind of like just... I think when they call it a disenfranchised, I don't know. Sam just seems kind of like a douche. Kind of a guy that's
Slacker. Slacker is the word it comes to me.
Slacker, dude bro.
But he's got some really cool movie posters hanging up on his wall.
But
He does.
He kind of... We don't really get a lot of background as to why Sam lives in L.A. It doesn't particularly say that he was... I think he was a musician.
Throughout the film, you get hints that he came there to do something, probably artistic.
Yeah, we see him play guitar a few times.
He plays guitar. I thought maybe a musician, maybe he aspired to be an actor.
Like so many people who go to L.A. to seek fame and fortune.
But we see right off the bat that this girl shows up to his apartment, and she brings sushi because she's like, I was just in town for an audition, and I thought you might like some sushi. And it immediately leads to them having sex. But it's the weirdest sex.
It's completely dispassionate.
Yeah, they're
watching TV.
Watching the news, and we're getting some exposition from the news while they're having sex, and it's just this weird... there's no...
Which, Sam's played by Andrew Garfield, and if you happen to be a fan, probably want to check out this sex scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you get a lot of butt.
Yeah.
A lot of Andrew Garfield butt. Mm-hmm. This is the
Spider-Man butt.
Yeah, second podcast in a row we've talked about dudes' butts. Mm-hmm. That's okay. We watch a lot of naked butts.
And a random connect... What?
I was saying it doesn't bother me. I'm not offended by it.
Not either.
I'm cool with it.
As long as it's a
You
good
got something
butt.
against that, Michael?
No, as long as it's a good butt. Andrew Garfield has a good butt.
Oh, so you have everything against bad butts.
He's a good-looking dude. Man.
I don't have time for bad butts. I need to choose my butts wisely.
But their relationship and the way it's so, there's this disinterest between them, but she keeps coming around, and...
She's clearly interested in him.
She's interested in him. It made me think of The Fifth Chord. And... Andrea Bild and the girlfriend that he has.
Yeah.
This is kind of like a side piece, and he's always worried about someone else.
But there was more chemistry between them two. I this relationship. I thought forever that she was a paid escort type situation. That's what I thought it was.
In reality, I think they're just fuck buddies. Mm-hmm. But she's clearly has more interest in him. And the thing is, what's really frustrating is Sam is almost likable.
Yeah. Sam
is kind of like that nonchalant, cool dude that. Is always kind of scruffy, a little bit of a slacker, but you kind of like him. I
gotta disagree with that. I never really liked him, and I don't need to like the protagonist of a movie to enjoy it. But I don't think he's someone I would really want to hang around with.
Well, I agree with you because as the film delves into it, I hate him. I hate him as we go along. But
I want his Creature from the Black Lagoon poster, but other than that,
but from the initial scenes, I'm like, well, I could see this. He's kind of an aloof dude, so maybe he's okay to hang out with. But as we go into the film, I'm like, no,
it's a very rear window situation at first because he's on his balcony looking through his binoculars at his neighbor across the way who's feeding her birds and stuff, topless.
Yeah. She's just known as Topless Neighbor, I think.
Yep.
Topless Bird Woman or something.
Yeah. Like that. So that's when he's on his balcony looking. That's when he sees.
Sarah,
yeah, which we've been fighting with this before we've done this podcast because we don't know how to say the actress's last name.
And we are very sorry because you are a great actress.
Yeah, she's awesome. But
Riley Keough?
Caw.
Sing it. Sing it.
So we're really sorry. I don't really think she's going to listen to this ever. But if you're like her number one fan, I'm so sorry. But she's great in it, and it's literally just like what kind of got me about this scene is that this happens like right after Sam has. No, he sees her before he has sex with a girl, right? And then like right after the O-face happens. He's like looking out the window and sees her walking her dog again and is like, oh, hey, I'm more interested in her than I am this girl that I've just had sex with, right? Have I got the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the order.
Okay. So that already tells me right there Sam's maybe kind of a bit of a douchebag. That it's always like looking for the next thing.
And that pool scene with Sarah, I was checking my notes to make sure... It's sort of a recreation of Marilyn Monroe and Something's Got to Give.
Right.
And that's a recurring theme throughout this film where they will reference like classic big Hollywood films.
A lot of old Hollywood references.
Like you already said, Rear Window with the binoculars, spying on his neighbors. And then there's a great little subplot that barely matters of his mother calling to talk to him. And she's talking about Seventh Heaven and Janet Gaynor's performance in it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've never seen that, so I don't...
It's an old silent film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They show little clips of it and everything, which I think ties into the plot.
I like old Hollywood. I don't even know who Janet Gaynor is.
But something interesting is one of the start of the film that we see. We see a young woman who's like trying to wipe some graffiti off of a window, and it just says, "Beware the dog killer." And so that already kind of sets up this like mystery within the film. Like,
something weird's going on.
Like, who is the dog killer? What is the dog killer? And we find out that the dog killer is someone who's going around killing all these dogs around.
How shocking!
Yeah, I know. It's not a very like clever name or anything, but yeah, someone going around killing dogs. And there's always missing posters up on almost everywhere that Sam walks.
Yeah,
that shows like these dogs missing and everything, which I think is important.
It is important.
I think it's important.
Put a pin in that thought for later.
Put a pin in it. Well, just like okay.
I had some general broad thoughts about Sam, just as like his characterization throughout the film. So this is going to jump ahead a little bit as I go through it.
I think it's okay to jump through in this movie.
It should be fine. So clearly he has a problem with women.
Yeah,
clearly. We can talk about.
Yeah.
And you really clearly see it in a lot of his dreams or hallucinations where he'll be interacting with a woman and she starts to bark at him like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then that makes you start to think about this dog killer thing, so still keep a pin in that idea. Many of the relationships we see him have in the film are hollow.
Yeah.
So he's obsessed with Sarah, completely and totally obsessed.
Who he just
drops
met.
everything that he's doing to pursue her. He's barely known her just for a day. He has flings left and right. He's hooking up with the actress chick that's visiting him. He'll meet a girl in the course of his like going about town and just want to hook up with them.
Well, we all know what that's like. That's like every day for us.
His relationships with his male friends, they are all very detached and often vaguely adversarial. He meets the guy at the party that he knows, and he's like, "Hey, what have you been up to?" And he's like, what have you been up to?
What's that actor's name? Because I fucking love him so much.
Let's see.
He's in Westworld.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of good stuff.
My favorite of his is the characters that he plays in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Well, his one friend that's really close to him that they just call Bar Buddy is Topher Grace.
Yeah, that's Topher Grace.
Yeah.
But the guy who's wearing a woman's blouse at the party.
Jimmy Simpson.
Yes.
Yeah,
he's good.
He's so much fun. He's always playing somebody slightly weird.
Yeah.
But he was so much fun. Every scene he was in, I was happy. Because he's completely embraced this weird art scene, avant-garde, like underground Hollywood thing of all of these failed actresses and actors that are like trying to still be relevant in the community, and he's just batshit. And I love him.
So it's clear in all these interactions with women, he cares more about gratification and sex than ever wanting to develop like a meaningful relationship that has any substance to it. And that's definitely a theme of the film, I thought, of like sexualization in media and how that has affected, us as people, as viewers that have grown up with this and seen this and maybe been affected by it. And it's connected in with the film because often everything we get is Sam's perspective on things. Mm-hmm. So when we see a woman in the film and it does focus on them in a very sexual manner, that's Sam's perspective that we're seeing them through.
Right.
And I think maybe part of the film is about the fact that he sees that way because that's
how media has
how
taught
media
him
has
to
trained
look
him to
at
do.
women.
And I don't think that excuses his behavior.
No, not at all.
But I think that's one interesting aspect of like the whole.
Well, we've all been influenced by media in one way or another like that.
Well, and I think what we find out later is the one true interaction that we get from Sam that feels the most genuine is when Sam runs into what we're supposed to believe is his old girlfriend at a party, and who he sees on billboards now.
Right.
She's become a model,
And
actress.
He stops at the billboard early in the film, and you don't know why.
Yeah.
He just stares at it.
And so he runs into her later in the film, towards the end of the film, actually, at one of these weird elite Hollywood parties. And that's when I think when we see Sam be the true Sam. Because he stops. Like almost everything he's doing, his quest for Sarah, all of this weird shit just stops. And she's like, how are you doing? And he's like, not that good. Mm-hmm. And through a revelation later, I think that what's happened is what happens to a lot of people, is that Sam was in this relationship with her. It did not end well. And Sam spiraled.
Right. His life just fell apart, and he didn't do anything to try to...
She became rich and famous, or at least, famous.
She moved on.
She's ascending, and
This was
he's
someone
going
else.
nowhere. He can't pay his rent. He's about to get evicted.
Yeah, and he just continues to spiral downward. And instead of looking at the real reason why that relationship ended, which is probably him, he just starts to blame it on everyone else around him, and it's all their fault, and it's a conspiracy. And I'm sorry, does this fucking sound familiar to current events that we're hearing and seeing?
A
That
little QAnon-ish.
that it's never my fault. It's never something that I've done. It's always, let's look to somebody else to blame. And for Sam, he often blames either one, this mystery group of like the Illuminati type people that run and control everything, and we only see what they want us to see. And that there's these secret codes hidden in everything that's given out to you. But those codes are only for those in the know.
Right.
I would argue that we also see his true nature one other time, before that part, where he meets his ex-girlfriend, when he kicks the shit out of those kids
Oh, yeah,
who
yeah.
keyed his car.
That's true, yeah. So there's debate online as to whether... And I think there's people trying to like actually like Sam as a character. Of
course, because they see too much of themselves in him.
And so they're trying to explain that away, saying that didn't really happen.
How come that didn't happen, but everything else that's weird?
I don't know. And to me, I was
good.
like, no, he punched the shit out of that
Oh,
kid.
yeah.
But the thing is, you almost relate to him because you'd want to.
Who doesn't want
But you're
to?
also like, no, that's a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to punch the shit out of this kid for egging my car and scratching a dick onto the top of it, which was kind of funny. I mean, and especially since his
like it's a very
bar
nice
buddy,
car.
Topher Grace, calls his car a cockmobile.
Yeah.
And he says that's what you get for driving a cockmobile.
Another time that's
I'm not even sure what that means.
telling a little bit, and we'll talk about these characters a little more in a second, but he's walking around with Millicent, who's a character that comes into the plot later, and they pass a homeless guy that kind of hassles them a little bit, and he goes on this just like...
Yeah, he says, like, I don't want to be
Fiery.
mean or something or misunderstood, but I don't like the homeless.
And he just really rants about it, and it's in a situation where like he's about to be homeless.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't, yeah. So we see all of these images of Sam, like... This movie, I think, is difficult, and I think the reason that it was called divisive so much is because you really have to look at this. A lot of films want to drag you in and have you be part of the narrative, but this film is begging you to not.
Yeah.
It's begging you to separate yourself from it and just watch it unfold, because I think it's super easy to get drawn into it, because I think we all like conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah, it's fun, this idea that there's something else out there and you can solve it and reach this sort of like profound
Right, I think
answer.
we even touched on that with Dark Song, that...
And I wanted to talk about that with this film, because a lot of what's going on with Sam and the way he notices things or finds
Magical
connections,
thinking.
It's an idea called synchronicity, which
Yeah.
is a concept that first came up from Jung. And it was this idea that to describe circumstances that appear meaningful related, yet lack a casual connection. And he thought that was like a healthy part of a functional mind, whatever you want to say about that. But it's a way of us as people giving important material things to stuff that might be unconscious and out of our attention. And if we extrapolate the idea of synchronicities and the ideas of looking for them, it's definitely another way of, yes, magical thinking.
And I think that we get like a juxtaposition of Sam with Bar Buddy. When Sam is kind of unloading just a little bit of that to him about, like, don't you think we were meant for something better?
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe I'm just living in this alternate life that...
And he says, do you ever feel like you made the wrong choice? And you've just gone down that path.
And so Barbuddy tells him, like, that's just narcissism, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the narcissism built into our nature, that we all think that we're destined for greatness, and we all think that there's something more when literally we're just us. It's just here.
Yeah.
But the shitty thing is that they're doing this scene while flying a drone through Hollywood Hills and spying on women.
Yeah.
So it's just so disconnected there.
Yeah,
like,
a woman who eventually comes out, sits on the bed, takes off her top, and just starts to cry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we get this voyeurs. There's so much about voyeurism in this film.
Yeah,
and it's a constant, like, there's always just objectification of women. And I think that's where some people get hung up on the film.
Yeah.
And I think what you need to really be able to do is to, like, realize that the film isn't, like, glorifying that. They're wanting you to look at that and be like,
Just because you portray something doesn't mean you're condoning it.
A lot of people... So Mitchell said in some interviews that he was really hurt by the fact that people were calling him misogynistic for this film. And he's like...
It's not me, man. It's Hollywood.
But he's also like, did you not get it?
Yeah.
Like, you're not supposed to like Sam.
Yeah.
Sam is a very unreliable narrator. He's very shitty. He's really lost in a horrible mental health breakdown that he's refusing to seek help for.
Yeah, not every protagonist you're supposed to identify with.
And so, yes, you're supposed to look at this and go, no, this is not healthy. This is not a healthy way to live. And so I think if you're watching this movie and you're like, I want to be like Sam, you should write us, because we can put you in touch with some people that could probably help you.
There are people who can help you, please.
I mean, I felt sympathetic to him, but it was often I was just like, I wish he would just go get help. But then at every turn, he goes one layer deeper down the well.
It goes back to what he said to Barbuddy, is don't you think you ever just made the wrong choice? He just continues to make the wrong choice. Like, it's every time.
In that moment, he almost recognizes what he's doing, but then he turns away from it and just keeps running on.
Self-awareness is a bitch.
Yes.
So, Sam, to get to the sort of plot of the film, I guess. I mean, the plot's loose.
Yeah, we can just get to the main, like, points.
But yeah, Sam is supposed to meet up with Sarah the next day because her roommates come home.
With a weird pirate guy.
Yeah, with a weird dude in a pirate patch.
That's one of those, like, great Lynchian moments where they just throw in something weird and you're like, what is that?
Based on Jason's face.
I wouldn't call it Lynchian. I would call it just... Okay, anyways. To me, it strikes me as more of weird for weird's sake.
Okay.
So
that's one of those touches. It's kind of like, okay.
Personally, I think it's important.
Okay.
Because I think that so much of this film is a metaphor for mental health. And I think it's about seeing the things that you want to see. Because that's exactly what he's doing. He believes in his mind that there is this overarching, conspiracy. So he sees what he wants to see. And I think that the characters, the weird characters that he sees in the film, are figments of his imagination.
So it really wasn't a dude dressed as a pirate?
Well, I think to him it was. But I've also said before on this that reality is what you believe it is. So you can convince yourself very easily, if no one's there to kind of help you snap out of it, that something that's not true is very true.
And I think that's what's clever about the film, is that we only have Sam's perspective to go off of.
Right. So the only time that we see somebody that really... So Sam unloads a little bit to Barbuddy. Barbuddy says, that's just narcissism, dude. Like, don't worry about it. He also ends up getting sprayed by a skunk. Because... and
I love the paranoia that comes out of that, too. For the rest of the film, there'll just be random spots where people are like, oh, what's that smell?
Yeah, some people acknowledge it, other people don't.
Yeah.
But he thought he was being followed by some... I mean, it's definitely not human, what we see. It's like some sort of a creature, and that's why he's behind the bush and gets sprayed by the skunk. That's
right. Right. So, and he blames... but I think that's an interesting point, though, because initially when the actress at the beginning comes in with the sushi, she says, what's that weird smell in the apartment? And I thought pot.
Yeah.
But then as the film goes on, I have another thought of what that smell was. But he says, well, I don't know, there's a lot of skunks around here, like skunks are all over the place.
I just thought he was unkempt, but, that's just...
There's a lot of good subtle setups where they'll mention something or reference something, and then later in the film, it gets realized.
Right, so he gets sprayed by the skunk, and he's... actress girl ends up coming over again to bring him tomato juice. So that he's bathing in tomato juice to try to get rid of the skunk smell. Well, this is where Sam actually unloads all of his conspiracy theory onto her, and he's like, don't you just fucking think that there's, you can just see the guy with all the strings attached to the wall.
And she's visibly disturbed by those.
And that's when she's like, okay, I'm going to go now, and I'll come back when the smell is gone, is what she tells him. And so that's the only other time that you see him really unload his thoughts to somebody, and he's immediately rejected from it.
But he does have some self-awareness there, too, because he says, is that weird?
Yeah.
Because he realizes he's gone too far with her.
Well, I think everybody in that, I think even people who are mentally ill have that thought of like, is this weird? Is this weird? And if you don't have someone there to talk to you about like, yeah,
that's fucking weird.
That's weird. So who does he meet really next? And it's he finds this kind of zine.
Well, in between, we should set up. So Sarah goes missing.
Jason's over here like, I don't even fucking know, man.
Sarah goes missing. He kind of wonders. He sees some weird stuff. There's a report on the news about this really famous rich guy named Jefferson Sevens. And he's mysteriously died. His car was found burning. His body's in there. There's the body of a few women. And when Sam's watching it, he sees them pulling out stuff from the wreckage. And he notices Sarah's hat.
Yep.
So that he begins to suspect that maybe that's her. Something's happened to her.
Right.
He wants to find out the truth.
Someone killed her.
But Sam goes to the bookstore and ends up picking up this zine.
Called Under the Silver Lake.
Yeah, Called Under the Silver Lake.
And I fucking love these parts. I love how
the animation and stuff's really cool.
I would buy this if it was real.
And this zine is like basically one of these underground like art projects, comic strips that somebody's done, but it's of this conspiracy about how there's if you get too close, the owl lady will come and kill you. And there's a fantastic animation that's just super fun about the owl lady coming to kill you. But so Sam actually brought to one of my favorite characters in the movie, which is the clerk.
Comic shop guy, yeah.
Sam goes to the clerk and he says, do you know who does this? And the guy's like, well, he's in here every now and then. And he's like, well, you give him my number. I'd like to talk to him. I
don't know.
And he's like, I don't know, man. And Sam's like, well, I'll give you $5 if you'll give him my number. And so the dude's like, I'll give him your number, but I don't need your $5. It's just the dude's so insulted, and I love it. But so Sam ends up getting connected with this artist. Well, this artist is full-blown conspiracy theory, too.
Right. It's the end of the road that Sam is on.
Right. This is not somebody who's just making a zine, like from this idea in his head. He is all in on this. He fully believes this. Well, now Sam is vindicated, almost.
It's like he's found the answer to everything he thought was true.
Right.
And Dustin, who plays the comic book Arthur?
Oh, no.
No, you know who it is, because I think he's deliberately cast here.
Yeah, oh, shit.
Patrick Fischler is the actor's name.
He's in Lynch stuff, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming to me.
That was intentional casting for sure.
I think he's actually in Mulholland Drive, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. A very memorable scene in Mulholland Drive.
And he's got a weird collection of these like castings made of famous people's faces.
Yeah.
That scene kind of struck me, like, because we're all three collectors of different things. Like, I'm more of a toy collector. You are a Blu-ray collector, a movie collector, and Jason kind of leans more towards records. But like all of us, he makes a statement. He's like, I should get a family so that I can leave all this to these people.
Yeah.
And I feel I've had that thought many times.
I love that line. I love the delivery of that line because there's a pause there. He says, he's looking at all of his stuff and he says, I should get a family. And you're thinking, oh, he's realizing that he's trying to fill his life with stuff.
Right.
But then he says, to pass this stuff along to. It wasn't to have any real fulfillment. It's perfect delivery. I really like that part.
But all of these scenes, it feels creepy, but it's like it feels creepy because we're not Sam anymore.
Right.
Like, now we're seeing somebody a little bit further along down the trail than Sam is, so we're like, what the fuck? Like, this dude's weird. He's got security cameras all in his house. The typical conspiracy theory paranoia.
He's got the little, like, secret bunker.
Yeah. But, so Sam is now kind of, like, emboldened to continue on his journey now.
Yeah, find the truth.
And he thinks that the truth might be linked to stuff in this scene as well. So I'm kind of lost as to where we go from, like, where it even turns.
So there's a few other, like, vignette setup things. We got to talk about Jesus and the Bride of Dracula. The Brides of Dracula.
Such a good name.
This is the weird, like, pretentiousness art project stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So they're like a pseudo-goth 70s prog rock type band or something.
There's a fun tidbit as to who they actually are.
Oh, yeah?
It's the Silver Sun Pickups. If anybody is
I
into
don't know who they
heard of them, but
indie music, they're...
sounds kind of hipsterish to me.
It's pretty hipsterish.
yeah, they're this very pretentious. Like,
I mean, you'd know if you were cool.
If I was cool, I'd know.
If you were cool, you'd know. But yeah, that actually is the Silver Sun Pickups.
Okay.
And he comes across them at first at a rooftop party, right? Some of the girls are singing there.
Yeah, he's...
That's a funny scene.
Where he goes... So this makes me think of a movie that I really, really like, and I was going to mention it so it at least gets put in our notes of related films. But have you guys seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
No, not unfortunately.
It's neo-noir with Robert Downey Jr. And Val Kilmer.
Ooh.
But it's written by Shane Black, so Jason's immediately going to throw it to the side.
No, he's done some good stuff. I just think he's a bit overrated.
It is actually following the same type of path. This girl goes missing, and they're hired to find her. But they end up weaving through all these weird Hollywood avant-garde parties. Mm-hmm. And so this scene had this feeling of like you show up to this party at somebody's mansion and this girl is covered in balloons.
Yes.
And everyone takes a pin when they get to the party. She does her dance performance
art dance thing.
And then everyone pops her balloon.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird.
Yeah, and she's just called Balloon Girl in the film. It's played by Grace Van Patten. She does a great job. She was one of the more memorable characters that's like a side person, I thought.
She is, because she shows up a lot. As the more Sam starts following down into this conspiracy and this spiral, she seems to be connected in all of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that party is where Jesus and the Brides of Dracula are playing. Everybody seems to be really obsessed with them, really, blowing them about how great they are and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So Sam ends up getting an invite to a solo show.
Yep.
From this party. Jason's staring off right now.
And then in between that, he's got the invite, and then before that, he tries to run down some of the girls that he remembered seeing Sarah interact with.
Right.
Or because he's asking around about like who knew her. And because I know there was a thing about that.
No, we're lost in the spiral.
Let me find it in my notes because it was one of those.
This is one of those movies you really can't just sit down and recount the plot, though.
No, I'm trying to think of my standouts. So specifically, Sam figures out that okay, maybe the next step that I should go is to track down Jesus and the Brides of Dracula. So he gets this, and I'm thinking he ends up getting a little 7-inch, right, of like a single.
Yeah. Oh, so that's at the secret party.
That's at the secret party.
Okay.
Where he dances with
I
Balloon
found
Girl
what it
again.
was. So he goes to this like one thing, and it's in the graveyard, and they're doing like they're showing
Hollywood graveyard.
They're showing a film that some of the brides acted in,
which looks pretty cool. I'd watch
that scene is a recreation of a scene from Mitchell's first film, The Myth of the American Sleepover.
Oh, neat.
They just reshot it with the actresses in this.
Huh. Cool.
So that's a funny little connection.
Yeah.
Well, and he sees when they leave. He sees some girls hanging in the back, and they're the actresses that are in the movie. And he's like, "Hey, are you in this movie?" And they're like, "Yeah."
What's that smell?
And they do comment on his smell. But when they leave, he notices they get in a limo with Pirate Dude.
Right.
Pirate Dude's in the limo. So he's like, I got to start tracking them down now. Mm-hmm. And I think this is where we also see Sam's misogyny, too, like really kick up. Because when he's out of ideas of how to find these girls, he just like lays open all of these magazines he has of like lingerie ads, Playboy, anything he's got with a woman on it, and starts jerking it.
And he has a favorite Playboy too, the July 1970 issue where the cover girl is Janet Wolfe.
Yeah, it's a strange thing.
I think they really just picked it for the later like link in the film.
Yeah. But then suddenly, like, he turns the page because whatever's not doing it for him, and he turns the page and he notices...
I don't think that's misogyny, though.
Well, it could, chaos magic. Do we need to talk about that, too?
Only if you really want to.
I don't know. I mean, I guess...
We'll save that for a different episode.
I think the visions of the girls barking at him is more
really
of a symbol of misogyny. But
I don't know.
It could be interpreted that way, but I don't think that just being aroused by images of women should be deemed misogynistic.
To me, it's the way he was doing it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. He was doing it wrong, is what you're saying.
No, to me, it was
his masturbation ritual was not long enough.
Yeah. To me, it was the fact that he laid all this stuff out, and he's like, well, some of these have to appeal to me.
Right.
You know, that's like, I don't know.
So what's your method? How do you do it?
Lots of crying. There's lots of crying, Jason. That's the method. Lots of crying. But he ends up noticing that one of the girls that was in the film is actually part of an escort service.
Yeah,
because there's an ad.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'll just call her. And then one of my problems was like, okay, you can't fucking afford rent. How did he afford this girl?
Credit card, she said.
Okay.
I mean, it's a wild coincidence he gets the exact girl he wanted. Maybe he asked for her. I don't know. Maybe they had, like,
it doesn't really show us.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, as he continues to follow this on down, though, like, he goes to the secret party.
Which is in, like, a mausoleum.
Really it's a cool setting. I was thinking Phantasm. Maybe Phantasm vibes.
But I thought it was funny because the dude, the security guard at the door, they tell him when she takes this cookie, he's like, you have to have this cookie, not a single piece can be gone of it, or you
get entry,
or you have to give it to them. And so the dude's like, to get in, you got to take a bite of the cookie. And Sam, being a total fucking cock, just eats the whole thing and shoves the whole thing in his mouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can imagine it turns out to be laced.
But he meets Balloon Girl again.
He does meet Balloon Girl. But as in this party, he gets handed like a 7-inch single of Jesus and the Brides of Dracula. But
he also dances to a song that's now stuck in my head again.
The
Thank
REM
you very
song?
much. Yes. What's the frequency, Kenneth? Oh my God.
Which, that's another kind of reference, right? Because
that song has to do about a mental breakdown.
Yeah. So surely that was an intentional
Yeah,
inclusion.
definitely. But it also just gave me this memory jolt back to like 1994. And
they have an interesting conversation while they're like partying together where he mentions a little bit about what he's doing. And then she's like, you know, why not just live in the moment? Let's just have fun. Let's just have a good time. Don't worry about all this other stuff.
Yeah.
We just need to, live right now, tonight.
And I think we need to focus a little bit on Andrew Garfield's dancing, which is like straight up Crispin Glover inspired.
Yes. It's out there. That's why I don't dance, because that's how I would look.
He's just got it. I mean, the one thing I will say about this movie is Andrew Garfield swings for the fences.
He goes for it.
It is all for sure.
I think that he's completely involved in it.
The whole cast is good. I really think so. I think it's... We'll get to that, though.
As, like, outlandish as it gets and how it continues to spiral and all this stuff, you never... I don't know. I think that's what got me so into it, is that everybody was so committed. That it was almost a dark comedy.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very much dark comedy.
Yes.
But I'm in there with them. I'm like, well, shit, I gotta see where it goes now. You know?
So, I'm finding the train forward, so I just...
Well, I think once he gets the 7-inch, he ends up...
Before he gets into the 7-inch thing, more happens with that author guy.
Shut up, Jason.
Well, it's fun when you watch it because you really get like in the labyrinth with him.
Right.
And the thing that he has like 5 different plates that are all spinning that's like a possible thing that could be the thing. And he keeps having to check back up on each one as it goes. He goes back to see the author guy, and he's dead.
Dun, dun, dun.
Right, he shows up outside his house. The police are there, and they're like, "Did you know him?" And he's like, "Well," or they're like, "Were you family?" He's like, "Well, I knew the guy," but the officer divulges way too much information.
Yes.
The dude's just like, "Yeah, he fucking shot himself. He killed himself. It's a suicide thing in there."
But so him, following the links, this has to be significant. He breaks in, he reviews the dude's security footage, and it seems that the owl's kiss that he speaks of in the comics came and killed him.
According to the videotape that we see.
I really like that imagery a lot.
It's cool imagery. It's spooky.
You could do a whole horror film that's just that character.
It's basically a naked female that's wearing like an owl mask, which I looked up. Apparently, that's an old folklore thing in like a lot of Native American culture. Is that like the owl will come and take your sons or something, like if you wronged them. Something like that.
The owls are not what they seem.
Interesting.
Yeah,
the framing of that too reminded me a lot of the scene in Ju-on when they're looking at the security guards watching. It's the same like setup and everything, same framing. But
I really like the imagery of the owl's kiss. I think that's
I think like it's totally not a horror film, but there are these little nuggets in there that are like great horror moments, just individually.
Yep.
But the interesting thing is that we all saw as viewers that the writer of this magazine is very mentally unstable. And Sam's response to the copies is like, I didn't think he's anybody who would kill himself.
Yeah.
When we're all like,
really?
Dude's off the chain. He's
yeah.
completely not okay. And you could easily see this guy killing himself. But yeah, Sam's just completely oblivious. He's like, no, there's no way that guy would kill himself. So that's when Sam sneaks in to the house, right? Once the cops leave.
Right, he gets the footage.
And also grabs this
cereal box that the guy thought was important.
Yeah.
So there's a map, like a puzzle map on the back.
So Sam is already starting to follow the clues now.
He's kind of picked up the journey.
And Jason's like, how long are we going to talk about?
So now, Michael, finally, this is where he fiddles with the record, and he gets the secret clues out of that.
He basically... He references earlier, he's like, do you believe, in like the hidden messages and
backmasking and all that.
Yeah.
He tries playing it backwards, which gave me the cringes because he's got his turntable all messed up and everything.
And it's kind of also in this segment where he interacts with the shooting star escort stuff too, isn't it?
Yeah.
He calls that number, and it turns out to be some of the girls that he's met at these parties.
Yeah, they're all kind of linking together. So in his mind, he's seeing like, oh shit, I'm onto something.
And what they tell him is just, if you want to get famous in Hollywood, this is what you do. You got to sign up for this, be an escort.
Yeah. So he ends up finding...
dirty side of Hollywood that we all know.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up finding a code within the song that's not playing it backwards. Mm-hmm. It's literally, I think it's chord progressions.
Yeah.
Because he's outside playing on his guitar and he's like, finds a chord progression. He's like, wait. And I want to say it's like the Nashville number system that he's using or something. That's like you assign a number to a chord.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there. And he spends all this time like ciphering it, and then finds like rub Dean's head and wait under Newton.
Yeah.
And so he finds like, oh my god, the observatory has James Dean's statue. Rubs his head, waits under Newton, and then some weird homeless dude shows up.
The homeless king.
Homeless king.
At the Griffith Observatory, which has been used in countless movies.
Yeah.
Another iconic classic Hollywood.
I mean, you've seen it in a movie. Rocketeer was one of them. Terminator, quite a few.
That just got an anniversary.
Yeah, awesome. It's a great movie.
It is, underseen.
Yeah, we should watch that.
Yeah, we should.
The homeless king brings him to a bunker that's underneath Griffith Park. And that bunker is quite interesting. It is actually... Oh, God, I have so many notes. It's the same location in which the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey takes place.
Okay.
It's set up to be
Cool.
Same deal.
That's neat.
But it's basically like an empty bomb shelter.
Yeah.
Is essentially... It's not empty, though. It's got stuff in it. It's got like a bed.
Some supplies.
And so... But Sam's like, well, it's just a bomb shelter. And so he crawls his way through this tunnel to get out, because he's not told how he gets out of here. Crawls his way through a tunnel and ends up coming up into the cooler of some
supermarket.
And so I think what I love the most, too, is he just stops and drinks from it.
Yeah.
He's like,
He grabs a carton of milk.
Yeah, I'm here. I just might as well. So that's almost a dead end for him.
Right. It's another thing where he's gone down the track and then the story stops, and he has to find the next link in the chain.
And so from here, I think it's where he starts focusing on the songwriter, right?
Right. So intermixed in this too, there's the whole deal of he's going to get evicted. He's not paid his rent. And your talk about like the ex-girlfriend, it made me think, this time I rewatched it, I wonder if that apartment, they had it together and she moved out.
That's a good point.
And that's part of why he's fallen behind on paying for it, because it doesn't really look like the place that he could have ever...
Or also why
sense.
why he's hell-bent on holding it. Mm-hmm. On why he just doesn't leave.
Yeah, and just find somewhere cheaper that he can manage.
But we do get this interesting thing early from the zine writer, who tells us that there's a hobo code.
Yeah,
because Sam sees in Sarah's apartment there's this image drawn on the wall, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?" And so there's a hobo code that the zine writer tells him about. That's like things that hobos would draw on items or buildings to let other hobos know, like. Well, I didn't know this was a real thing, and so I Googled it.
It's a totally real thing.
Holy
it's
shit,
really interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I fell down a rabbit hole and a half of that. So, as Sam starts to try to track down Jesus and the Brides of Dracula to find out, like...
This is my favorite party that he goes to.
Yes.
It's a chess party where people just get together and sit around and play chess. And...
Well, because it's the dude, Jimmy Simpson.
Yeah.
He's like, do you play chess? And he's like, no. He's like, great, so it's fine. It's perfect. Even better. But it's like he says that this dude throws a party for all these people to play chess, and like he thinks it's cool, and it's so fucking pretentious.
Yeah.
But Jesus and the Brides of Dracula are there.
Yes.
And
This is a really awkward moment in the film.
It's hilarious.
Andrew Garfield, Sam tracks Jesus into the bathroom and just beats the hell out of him.
He's sitting on the shitter,
Yeah.
and he comes in and just drags him off.
Now,
Starts
something
kicking his
interesting. Did you notice that there is a gratuitous shot of Jesus' shit in the toilet?
Yes.
Yes.
One frame. Did you catch the Hobo Code?
I
No.
don't think so.
It said dead end. Ooh. It was the triangle, upside down triangle for dead end. Like the path is dead here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the next scene, he starts beating him, saying like, "What's the code? What's the meaning in the song? You did the song." And Jesus
he's
reveals
like,
to him, he's
I
like,
didn't write it.
"I didn't write it."
Yep.
And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "A songwriter wrote it."
And he says, I did most of them, but the songwriter gave me that one.
And he gave him several.
Yeah, and he's like, those are all your hits, though.
But the poor dude is like, the image, like the visage of Jesus being like this cool, aloof vampire thing is gone. And he's now crying on the ground with his pants down. And Sam's like, "Well, those are all the best songs." And he's like, "Well, that's a little harsh, man."
But
Yeah, Jesus admits that it was Max Martin who wrote those songs. So then he has to. Sorry, Max Martin's like notorious for writing all those pop hits and stuff.
Well, I think that's definitely the intention.
That's where they're going.
right,
for
because
it.
how much
Yeah.
of like famous pop music is just someone else wrote it? It's nothing to the artist; they just performed it.
Yeah, like it still is common that if you're going to be anybody, you're going to write with this dude. Like
Yeah.
you're going to go set up with them. They're
Almost
gonna
none of those people write their own music.
They're going to get you a hit.
But with this link, it connects to something that he heard in passing before, when some of the girls told him about a party that they went to that was in this like very wealthy, like sealed off area with mansions.
Yeah.
And you could kind of roam wherever you wanted, but there was one mansion on the hill that they said never to go to. Mm-hmm. And it was like, who owned it? I don't know, just some...
Well, Sam ends up figuring it out.
Yeah, he links that up together.
He ends up figuring it out and goes.
It looks decrepit too. Like it's not. It doesn't look like it's in use. Or at least not upkept.
It's not like the other mansions he's
Yeah.
been to so far in the party. And did you notice all of these mansions looked very much like the mansions in Mulholland Drive?
Yes.
They're all like spitting image.
Oh yeah, they're all like those. Probably McMansions, really, more than anything.
Yes.
But Mitchell said in an interview about this that when he was writing this, which he wrote before It Follows, he wrote this before that, and
He could have never made this first.
no, not at all. But people were like, "This is fun. Like this is wild and crazy and artsy, and I'd love to see this made." And they're like, "But you're not going to get this made."
No, not for
So
this feature.
he shelves it. But he said that he was talking to, I think he's his girlfriend or wife at the time, that you look up at those mansions in Hollywood and you're like, what kind of life is that? Like, that's on a different plane of existence from everybody down here. Like, I wonder what that world is like.
Right.
And so I think this is an exploration of that. Like this,
That's fascinating.
almost like this is the people he's talking about, the Illuminati that control
Right,
everything
right.
down here.
Super wealthy.
We
They-
can't get to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sam ends up getting to this mansion and makes it inside.
Leads to my favorite scene of the whole movie.
It's awesome.
One of the best segments.
It's awesome. So he sees this old dude who reminds me of old Biff from from Back to the Future.
Yeah,
He's kind of like an old Biff makeup.
that mixed with a little bit of Johnny Cash, maybe. I got some Johnny Cash in there. I don't know why.
He's sitting there playing piano,
Yeah.
and he's playing all of these pop songs, bits and pieces of these pop songs that you've heard.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard them.
There's all this memorabilia, all these instruments sitting in the room.
Kurt Cobain's guitar is a big one for
Yeah.
Sam because he has the Kurt Cobain poster. He idolizes
Right.
him.
If you
Right.
notice in one of the scenes, Sam is actually dressed verbatim how Kurt Cobain has been
Yes.
dressed in certain
Yeah, I
picture
saw that.
shoots. So he's obsessed with Kurt Cobain. And he sees like Kurt Cobain's guitar and he's like, "Is that Kurt Cobain's Fender Jaguar?" And he's like, "I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it is."
Someone gave it to me.
It's just like super aloof. And so that's where we get this kind of telling of like
The truth of what he's up to.
yeah, what he's been searching for. Like, I write all these songs,
Yep, he says that everything in pop culture that you've cared about or that your parents have cared about, it's all been engineered just by one person, by him. and it's effectively all meaningless trite that the elite just use to swap secret messages back and forth between them.
Yeah, and he goes back. He's going. It's a great segment where he's just going through and playing bits of all these different.
And he's going through like the generations.
Yeah, yeah.
What your parents listen, what your grandparents listen to, and what your parents listen to.
And he plays "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
That's what sets Sam off, because Sam's
I actually wrote down a line that he says too, because I thought it was so good the way he delivers it. But it says, "Oh, look at you. Everything that you've hoped for, that you've dreamed about being a part of, is a fabrication. Your art, your writing, your culture is the shell of other men's ambitions beyond what you will ever understand."
It's such a great scene. I think the actor who does this delivers it so well.
Yeah.
And you see Sam break.
Right.
You really see...
Well, then you see the old man break.
Fantastic scene. Sam goes for him, and the old man pulls a gun on him.
Yeah.
Shoots him up.
He's still playing with one hand, too, while shooting him.
He's shooting at him, misses him, hits everything else in the room, goes for another gun.
Yeah, he should have gone for the semi-automatic first, not the revolver.
But he ends up pulling another gun, but Sam charges him, and baseball swings at his head with the Fender guitar and smashes it.
Smashes his head in several times.
Great practical effects scene.
Yeah, it's fun.
It was very... Midsummer, I felt totally pulled from that.
I can see that.
That head smashing scene.
It's a good head smash.
But yeah, now Sam's covered in blood, and now it's just everything is completely out of control.
And unfortunately, he still hasn't found Sarah.
No, all this, and he's not found Sarah. I mean, we could probably spend 3 hours breaking down this movie, and I'm not sure we need to, but I'm just enjoying discussing it with someone else right now because.
Oh God, I spoilers for ahead, but I love this film so much.
But I sat there afterwards, and I want to talk. One thing I wanted to make sure I brought up. That's, I think, even though, Jason, I know you didn't care for this.
We'll get to that.
The fact that this movie sparked a subreddit of people trying to decode the meanings of this movie.
And looking for even more secret meanings that might not be apparent.
They rewatch it so many times, and they take notes, and they're writing things down, and they're talking...
Even after the songwriter at the piano says that there's no meaning in any of those?
Yes, because they do the same thing Sam does.
In defiance of the film's themes.
They do that. Sam does the same thing, even though the songwriter told him everything you're looking for is a bunch of bullshit that I've done. Sam's like, no, that can't be the answer.
There has to be more.
There has to be more. In that fucking self-destructive search that... I mean, you watched Into the Storm.
Yes.
You see the QAnon thing. You see how this continues to happen.
Oh, sure.
And
it's
I checked out
I
checked out Murder, Death, Koreatown recently, which is a controversial found footage film, and that's dealing with the same kind of stuff too.
It's like someone tells you you get so lost in this, no, this is what it has to be. It has to be bigger than this because the answer can't be simple.
Yeah.
And someone tells you there's still people thinking Trump's going to be reinstated in August because we can't not, because it's already been planted. We followed it this far.
Yeah,
and somebody's
they keep pushing the date back. Have you noticed that?
But they're like, well, it's over, man. It's over. We found the answer. We got the answer. It's over. And they're like, no, it can't be that simple.
Well, they're looking for bamboo in the ballots. As soon as they find that, man, it's all done.
But the same thing's happening with Sam, and that's why I think that some people found this movie far-fetched, and I'm like, it's not at all far-fetched. It's...
Thematically, no. If you take it at face value of what's actually happening... Sure, it's far-fetched, but you're not supposed to take it literally.
Right. We're watching Sam. Sam is our narrator. And this is
very unreliable.
And this is how Sam is viewing everything that's happening.
Yeah.
It's an exaggerated presentation, but I think that's one of the powerful things you can do in film is that you can exaggerate something so much that it makes a point.
Sure.
Through the way you're showing it to people.
And I think that one of the fun things that Mitchell did here is he said in an interview, he's like, no, I'm never going to reveal any of the truths. Or I'm never going to reveal any of the things about why I wrote it or how I wrote it.
Well, it's good. That's in line with the thesis of the movie. That's exactly what he's saying.
But people are begging him to do it, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
And you know what? There probably isn't anything.
And he almost insinuates that there isn't. It's
like I've thrown all this stuff in there, and you're going to go grabbing at it, and you're going to think you figured it out, and it's all just meaningless. I told you in the fucking movie. Weren't you paying attention?
Exactly. But I think for me, what I tended to really like about this movie was the fact that he couldn't let it go. Mm-hmm. And I saw a very interesting thing. So after things really start to unravel for Sam, and like he's killed the songwriter and everything, he's back in his apartment, and I'm pretty sure he's covered in blood at that time too, because he has the gun. And you see a scene where he's sitting there with the gun, and you really think Sam's going to kill himself. Mm-hmm. Like, you got that, right, Jason? Like, did you feel that he was at his end there?
Right.
And he's visited by the Owl's Kiss. The owl lady shows up in his apartment, and he turns only because there's a knock at a door. Like, the owl lady's about to come up behind him, and you're like, oh, she's going to get him, or we're going to get a tussle here. But there's a knock at the door from the police, which is this really funny, like, middle-of-the-night eviction notice.
Yeah.
But I really saw, and then I saw this in the message boards as well, I was really feeling like the Owl's Kiss is a metaphor for suicide. Mm-hmm. That when you're visited by this entity or whatever, it's basically like, okay, you've reached the end. Like, it's time to go.
Which would make a lot of sense with the artist that makes it, because, like we were saying, he was at the end of his rope, too.
Yeah, and but it's also to add another conspiracy on top of it, that it's not something as simple as Sam is mentally unhealthy. Sam is mentally broken and needs help. It's got to be, well, no, it's not my fault.
Right. He compartmentalizes because he has all these problems, and I think on some level he knows he has them because he does kind of own up to them.
He's
sometimes.
A little self-aware sometimes.
But he does this thing where it's like, if I solve this problem, which is a problem I can solve that's a specific thing of finding this person and finding out what happened to them, it'll all be better.
Yeah.
And I think that's a common theme in mental illness, though, is most people are not 100% crazy.
Right.
Most people have an awareness of, this isn't right. Like, I know I'm not normal. I know that this can't be true. But because you've convinced yourself so long that it is, you can't let it go. Like, well, maybe it is. And maybe the other part's not the true one.
Right.
And so, ultimately, what Sam ends up finding, because there's so much more.
We go to another party, and I do want to talk about that party.
Okay.
It's the one where he meets Millicent, who's the daughter of Jefferson Seventh. That's also where I think he encounters the ex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was another funny, like, I don't know if it's supposed to be Lynchian or just making fun of, like, the pretentiousness of Hollywood. But when he comes there, he's basically in his pajamas, and he's just got, like, a plain white t-shirt. But the second he goes through the door, a chick's like, oh, hey, I like your shirt.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
it's like those plain t-shirts that cost $300 for some reason.
Yeah.
I remember I was in, because, I mean, you guys already know this now. We were in a small town in Kentucky. So
I'm very aware of that, yeah.
Well, I mean, listeners know that now. We're in a small town in Kentucky. So there's not, like, big city stuff around us at all. So
not too much.
I went, my wife is from San Diego, so I went on a trip with her one time back to see where she grew up and everything. And I was wearing a Dawn of the Dead shirt that I bought at Old Navy. It was like a super mass-produced Dawn of the Dead shirt, but I had worn it so much that it kind of wore out. Mm-hmm. And I was wearing it at a microbrewery that I stopped into in this like super hipster part of town. And the dude was like, "Oh my god, dude, vintage shirt! Like that's the coolest fucking shirt. Where did you get it?" And I was like, "Old Navy." And the dude looked broken. That he was thinking that I was going to have some cool story about how I got the shirt. And I was like...
You think they were making Dawn of the Dead shirts back in 1970 fucking
I was like, yeah, I got it at Old Navy, man. And he was like, oh.
Did he ask you to leave?
I mean, I felt like I could have been asked to leave because
You're not pretentious enough to be here. Please leave.
I almost didn't want to answer. I was like, oh, I don't know. I got it off a hobo down the street.
You should have said a vintage shop somewhere.
I should have.
You should have said like Pops or something.
You know, in my infinite coolness.
Yeah, like, you tell the truth.
Got it at Old Navy. I had a coupon.
I got some sandals too.
Yeah.
But so Sam hangs out with Millicent. They go on a walk. She gives him a bracelet that she had from her father that's got some strange like lettering on it, and they go skinny dipping in the Silver Lake.
As you do.
But the reason for skinny dipping is because she wants to talk to him about what she's noticed about a conspiracy with her father, but she needs to go where they aren't listening.
Right.
Yeah, she says they're being followed.
But she wants to make it look like they're having sex in Silver Lake.
Which I think he's down for.
He begrudgingly goes along with
I think he was definitely down for that. But then I saw somebody in a message board was like, what made the hail fall? And I was like, it's fucking gunshots, man.
Yeah.
Like,
what made the what?
Hail fall? What made the hail hit her? And I was like, hail?
That's called a bullet, my friend.
It's a bullet.
Hail?
Yeah, they said the hail. fell from the sky and hit her. I was like, what?
No. But yeah, people show up, they go gunning for them, they shoot her, and it's this weird moment where, in her death, she recreates the shot from his Playboy
cool
magazine.
imagery.
And it's another one of those weird synchronicity moments
Yeah.
that seems to suggest he's on the right path. And this is when we get our big, amalgamation of everything.
He ends up finding that through a Zelda map.
Yep, he's got the cereal box prize map, a Zelda map. It all kind of coordinates to Silver Lake and the area around. And then he's got little coded messages on the bracelet that at first he thinks are chess moves, because it seems to mirror how you would notate those out.
And he went to the chess party.
Mm-hmm. So that seemed like a Link dead end. But if you take the Zelda map, how they had it in Nintendo Power, which is another thing he's obsessed with.
NP, Nintendo Power. I had a shit ton of those.
Me too. That was like a nice thing that my parents always did for me. They subscribed Nintendo Power for us. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, so the lettering corresponds to
Nostalgia.
The lettering corresponds to if you grid map the Zelda map.
Yeah, it's a specific kind of cipher. Mm-hmm. But he finds this location that is supposed to on the map of Silver Lake that he can find where the answer is.
And when he Google Maps it, it's blank there.
Yeah. So once he finally goes there, it's supposed to be treacherous. We see a hobo sign, Hobo Code that says "Danger, stay out."
Yep.
He follows it anyway, and he comes across these 3 girls he's been chasing through the whole movie. And they're in white...
A yurt. They're in a yurt.
Yeah,
a yurt. And in white cult robes.
Mm-hmm. The nice hippie looking dude.
Yeah.
We find out through some pretty well-delivered monologues there, which I actually really like these scenes.
He's a likable actor, yeah.
That basically the wealthy elite are going to ascend by housing themselves in these bunkers like he found earlier with 3 other girls. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be like the pharaohs of old.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that they're going to ascend, and they're locked down there in these tombs.
With enough food for 6 months. Food and water for 6 months.
So they cross over.
Yeah.
And so Sam is then reunited with Sarah because he doesn't believe it. Mm-hmm. And they give him this one-way phone.
It's like a video phone.
Phone.
Yeah.
That
he calls her.
That he said basically we had to do this because some people were freaking out at one point.
Yeah, we've had some trouble.
And so Sam sees Sarah. She's there, and she looks happy. Yeah. She sees the Seventh guy, the dead guy from earlier.
All that was just a staged death.
Yeah, and he's now down there with Sarah, and it was actually her other 2 roommates that were down there with him, and that's where she's going to be.
Yeah, they're fine.
This was my favorite part because she's like, "Hi,
yeah,
you know what?"
She's like, "Why are you tracking me?"
It's like I was, she's like, you just met me, like you barely know me or something like that.
And she basically tells Sam,
"Why would you do that?"
She says, "Well, you think I've made the wrong choice," and he's like, he doesn't really answer her.
He says, "Maybe," I think.
Yeah, but she's
maybe,
like,
I don't know.
But she's like,
"Too late now."
Well, I'm just going to make the best of it. And so basically, all of this journey that Sam's been on culminates into just her going, "It's what I wanted."
Yeah, and that's one of the misogynistic angles, I think, because he's built up this huge relationship in his head about
save
her.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's that classic put them on the pedestal.
Yeah, exactly. I just met you, and I feel this for you. You must feel the same way. We're soulmates, and she's barely even knows who he is.
Right. It's also this thing of that you see the hero complex that so many incel.
Right.
Males
the whole
have.
white knight thing.
Yeah, if I can just save her, she'll see me.
Yeah,
but
she'll be mine.
And the cult guy, he sort of truncates this with a line that I wrote down. That it's clear that even after he speaks to her, Sam still can't kind of wrap his mind around why is this? Why are they doing this? But the cult dude, he tells him this isn't a world that anyone with any sense spends any time in or worrying about. And again, that kind of echoes what the balloon girl was telling him. That's why do you care about all of this? Let's
just live in the now.
Yeah, live for now.
So that basically sends us, the homeless king comes to take Sam away now.
Yep. There's a problem that the homeless king has realized.
Yeah, that Sam now knows. Sam is in on it, and he's seen behind the curtain, and so now they have to decide what they're going to do with him. Are they going to kill him, or are they going to let him live?
Well, the homeless king's really pissed because he's got dog biscuits in his pocket.
Yep. And he wants to know why.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, and it kind of brings us back around to who is the dog killer kind of a thing.
Right, because throughout the film, you're given hints to suggest that it might be Sam.
Yeah. And there's a lot of little pieces in there where they do suggest that it is Sam, but also turn around in another time and kind of say that it's not Sam. Mm-hmm. So there's no definitive answer.
But here's where we get the truth, at least from Sam's perspective, which is that he admits to him, I used to be with this person and she had a dog. I really loved the dog. We separated. It's a very painful memory. And I thought I would hold on to these and maybe one day we would get back together somehow and I could give the dog a biscuit again.
And rub its ears like I used to. And everything would be okay. Mm-hmm. And what I feel like we're kind of dumb for failing to mention is when he first sees Sarah outside of the pool, she has her dog.
Yeah.
And so that's basically Sam's whole journey, like...
projecting what he had onto this new girl.
To fix what he's done.
Right.
The
ex is gone now and there's no way to do that. But if he can play it out properly with Sarah...
Right.
Seems like it'll be okay. It's not going to be. We know that, but Sam can't see that.
So Sam returns back to his apartment. He's going to get evicted. He looks over at Topless Bird Lady and basically walks over there and sleeps with Topless Bird Lady.
Seems like he's just going to shack up with her. And
goes out in the balcony. He's looking at his apartment with the cops back and the manager's back, and you see the symbol.
The symbol that says keep quiet.
Keep quiet.
Yep. And that's pretty much the end of the film. Mm-hmm. Credits roll. Interesting things through the credits, though, is there's little interspersed hobo codes throughout there. And I found myself at the end of the movie, with my phone up, writing them down, trying to cipher it.
Trying to find meaning in something you were told has no meaning.
And there is a cipher in the credits.
Yeah, it's a jumbled, what's that called? It's a specific code where it's where you move one letter, A equals B. So therefore you write it out and you move the letter over.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
Do you guys know what the brilliant secret message is?
What is it?
Do you know?
Written and directed by David Robert Mitchell.
What? What?
I know.
Mind-blowing.
But then that led me down, after I finished the movie, I just got so involved with the idea of, these secret messages. Mm-hmm. Not to the point where I'm thinking, there's, that kind of thing. But I found myself looking on Reddit and watching people interact with each other, sharing these clues that they're finding and trying to find meaning in it, not because they believe it, but because it's become a game for them now.
Right.
But it's some way for this movie to carry on. This is the type of film that I feel like a lot of people, you watch it once, you're done. You don't really need to watch it anymore because you might not have liked it. But it's this way to keep people engaged.
It's a fun interactivity that can breathe life into it and keep it alive. That is neat, even if it's ultimately fruitless. But it's fun.
So I've got a few other cool little nod things in the film. I'll just do these out at the end here. The songwriter's mansion was used as a shooting location in Neon Demon.
No, I still have not seen Neon Demon.
It's really good.
I need to watch it.
Sam's weird little video game ringtone that he has is a Commodore 64 game, The Last Ninja.
Cool.
And this was just a random thing a lot of people have noticed. There's a weird theme of groups of 3 girls. So Sarah has 2 roommates. There's 3 daughters in the Seventh family. There's the 3 brides in the band. The balloon girl and the 2 shooting star members are roommates. Mm-hmm. There are 3 girls that bark at Sam when he stumbles into the ladies' room. Mm-hmm. There's 3 girls in miniskirts that discuss who the dog killer is with Sam. And then Sam watches How to Marry a Millionaire with Sarah, which has 3 female leads.
Yeah. So what's that mean?
No one knows. It's just a curious synchronicity.
So, Jason, go ahead.
No.
What did you think of the
I'm
film?
not going first.
Let's make it a compliment sandwich. So one of us will go first, and then we'll put Jason in the middle.
I have compliments. Okay. I have compliments. Okay. The film craft is top notch. Mm-hmm. It is directed so well. It is shot so well. It looks like old Panaflex cameras or something. I'm not sure what they used.
Right. It's truly a love letter to old Hollywood. And I think what's fascinating about it is at the same time, a lot of people said this was not critical enough of Hollywood. And I think that they're wrong.
It's not going to hit you over the head. It's not as heavy-handed as the amusement park or something like that.
it celebrates old Hollywood while at the same time criticizing a lot of the BS that's gone on there.
It's talking about these old rich men who have to bring all these women with them and Yeah.
And that was a juxtaposition I saw. That's like Sam objectifies them in this personal way of sexual gratification. And then when you find out what this cult's doing, they're also objectifying the women, but they're just treating them as like a treasure to go in their palace.
That's what all cults do. They all just, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, it's made very well. Gorgeous movie. Well acted. Music's amazing.
But
at the end of the day, I just don't think I liked it that much. I get that there's, layers to this movie. I get there's subtext. There's a lot of things you can read into it. I get it. But at the end of the day, it was just like The Big Lebowski meets Mulholland Drive or something like that.
There's a lot of people that put those labels on it.
And
I think it wears its inspirations on its sleeve.
It does, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a tremendous letdown for me personally after It Follows, which I thought was one of the best horror films of that last decade. I would say watch it if you hadn't seen it just for the film craft alone. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it just did not work for me. Like, I can't... first of all, I believe the thesis of the movie is don't look for meaning. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to start looking for meaning.
Right.
And I don't believe that a movie... It reminds me a bit of Donnie Darko, which I know you like, Dustin.
I fucking love
But
Donnie
I
Darko.
really don't like that movie.
I don't either.
I think there's a correlation that if you did love Donnie Darko, you're guaranteed to love this
Probably,
movie.
but I think part of the thing with Donnie Darko was that people were like, oh, but the real meaning is this, and it makes everything better. And it's like, I shouldn't have to do homework to make a movie good.
I always do homework.
I know you do. You're an overachiever. You're probably that kid who was always asking for homework.
Why don't we have homework? Shut the fuck up, Dustin. Shut the fuck up.
Now, I believe in research, obviously. I've researched for a lot of the movies we've done. I think that could be very gratifying and add more nuance and layers to the movie. But I don't think that in and of itself, that makes a movie any better.
No, I'll agree with you.
Okay. So, at the end of the day, I would have to give this 2.5 stars.
Okay, that's fair.
Cool.
This movie is divisive.
Yeah.
It's very...
That's the first thing you'll see if you start looking into it online.
Yeah.
I will be in line for his next movie,
Oh, dude's an incredible filmmaker.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this one just didn't work for me.
Okay.
How about you, Michael?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's a 5-star movie for me, but I'm definitely going to go probably 4.5.
Wow.
Just because I had so much fun watching it.
Okay.
It just really, to me, I love movies about mental illness, but like, it's one of those things like where I do have a mental illness. It's one of those safe ways to watch it and cope with it.
Sure.
Kind of like,
I get that.
And that's
with
one of the
horror and
powerful
stuff.
things about film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just had so much fun watching it. I think that Andrew Garfield was great in it.
He was pretty good.
If he was not even as shitty as a person as he is in the movie, like if he wasn't as charismatic as he was in the film, it wouldn't have played.
That's what makes it work, I think.
Because if that would have been somebody else not quite as likable, even though you hate him, it's still Andrew Garfield, and you're like, he's still kind of fun. Like
You want to love him, and then...
you do,
yeah.
but he just keeps making bad decisions over and over and over, and you're like, God damn it, man, just get your shit together.
Dude, please don't do this. And then
But-
he does.
Yeah, so I think that if you like these kind of mindfuck movies, ones that may not fully make sense, I definitely watch this. Honestly, I'd watch it no matter what. I think you should watch it, because you might see something in it that you like. Otherwise, what the fuck am I even talking about? I don't know. I don't know. I liked it. 4.5 stars. Fuck it, go.
And I'll toss in before I go over my thoughts. It is streaming on Amazon Prime, so
Uh-huh. Sure is.
you got that. You can easily check it out. No
Yep.
problem.
No problem. That's how I watched it.
So
It looked good. No, that's a presentation.
Didn't have to pay extra for it.
I've got the blue.
Very extra.
I watched it on Amazon Prime first, and then ran out and immediately bought it.
Oh.
So
Liked
this
it
is
that
maybe
much?
my third or fourth time rewatching it, and I love it. I love it every time. I feel like I love it more each time I watch it.
Now, why do you love it so much?
Pretty much everything that Michael said. You can just double again for me. I love these weird, trippy, surreal kind of mindfuck movies. I think it's so Lynchian. It's not the same level as Lynch, but it's really shooting for that. And I love that, and I appreciate that a lot. I like how neo-noir it is. I love all the classic Hollywood stuff that's going on. All the acting, every single person in it is firing on all cylinders. The direction, the visuals, the music, it's like the complete package of everything I love.
Okay.
So, very hard 5 stars.
All right.
From me.
5 stars from Dustin.
I won't belabor it with more because I've kind of praised it all throughout. So.
All right. Well,
So
I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting movie. I'll give you that.
For next week, we have something kind of cool.
Right, we're going to mix it up a little bit. From the start, we have said that we want people to write in and recommend us movies to watch, and we will mix that in at some point. We still want more. Please send us more.
Yes.
Contact us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email.
Give us weird shit.
Anywhere, everywhere. But we do have a few now, so what we're going to start doing, we kind of go in a round with our choices. It's usually you, Michael, Jason, then myself, then we start again. So now as we go through this rotation, when we get to the end of what you would call like a round of going through us, if we have any of these suggested films, we're going to grab one at random, cover something that people have said like, hey, I want you guys to check this out, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover it.
Cool. Yes.
So what is it? Somebody recommended.
Adrian has recommended that we watch Devil's Pass.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's actually a movie I have seen, but I don't think either of you have.
No, I have not. I'm curious to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Rennie Harlan film.
Love Rennie Harlan.
What year is that from? It's not that old.
It's found footage, right?
It is found footage. If any of you are familiar with how would you pronounce it? Dyatlov Pass?
I'll have to look into that before we even do the episode.
Yeah, it's this movie's from 2013. And I think I'm interested to see what you guys are going to say about it.
All right.
And hopefully
so
everyone out there
deck.
will like to listen to us talking about it.
We'll see. Adrian will be like, I wish you guys hadn't have.
Yeah, oh man, I used to love this movie.
I hate it now. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, write us, hit us up on all the social media outlets. Give us your suggestions, comments, criticisms, all that shit. All right, it's been fun. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Take care.